Okay, so I wanted to make a video on my thoughts on optics and sighting, basically, for rifles. This is why I do what I do. This scope is a pretty good scope. It was $100. I just went and looked at kind of where I would look to upgrade from this. If I was going to swap out from this Weaver, my choices would be a 3-9 Weaver, that's about $150, or a 3-9 Leupold, that's like $300. I honestly don't know which one of those I would get. The Leupold would be nice, but the Weaver probably would function just as well. This scope doesn't fucking exist anymore. That's a shame. There's no 2-7 scopes at all. There's no 2-10 scopes at all. I guess everybody wants 3-9, but that's really, it's sad and stupid. The 2-7 is, in my opinion, the perfect scope for an AR-15. You're not carrying too much glass. Like, everybody has like a 1-6, 1-8, 1-10. What I'm telling you, what you need is a 2-7, 2-8. 2-10 maybe even. But if I could get a 2-8, dude, that'd be bitchin'. A 2-8 in this size and like weight range. I like having this thing because basically all optics are going to be vulnerable to being shot and or broken. This one's pretty good and it's cheap. It's in a Weaver SPR mount because it actually repeats zero pretty well, and it has these ACOG screws, and it was $50, and it's made by the same people that make the scope. This is the same type of setup I would mimic again. I would probably have to pony up some money to get a real mount this time, unless I could find one of these Weavers. All of the good cheap shit is just gone. Doesn't exist anymore. And this is where I'm like trying to like think about a video to advise you on what to buy now. To be quite frank, the real answer is a hollow, son. If you're gonna get a scope, I think you kind of missed the boat on some of this shit. At least on getting a decent one for under $100. All of the scopes that I would buy right now were $150 to $300. And all of the ones that I was seriously considering buying were $300. You know, and I might do that and like tuck this one away in my spares, just as is, because this is a, you know, you could just mount this on something. Or maybe keep this one on, buy that Leupold and buy a nice mount for it, have that zeroed, and have it as like another optic, just ready to go. And like this one gets banged around until the world ends, and then we swap out, and then this one becomes the backup. It's really not a bad idea. The shit part is I would want to get like a LaRue mount. That's gonna be fucking $150 or more. But that's assuming that we want to upgrade this, which I don't know that we want to, because this is kind of my philosophy on this thing is, okay, yeah, we have red dots and lights and shit now. That's great. What happens when that shit doesn't work? This is why at the end of the day, I still have an M16 with iron sights and a bayonet lug, and it's kind of rigged for fucking trench warfare in Vietnam. Basically, because I kind of think at a certain point, I would ditch this thing. This is a, hey, we are at limited contact with the enemy. We are scouting. We are hidden. We are sniping, whatever. Eventually, I'm going to guess this is probably going to get you killed. Maybe not. But I kind of envision this as something that you would take off and throw in your rucksack or something, and then maybe proceed with irons. Maybe not. Maybe run this until it breaks and then do that. But I consider the possibility of this breaking to be high. As a result, we want really good irons. And the irons that I like, first off, for a front sight post, if you can get it, I like this one. This is the F-marked A-frame, A2 front sight post, whatever. I went with a flat top in the rear instead of a fixed carry handle. And my real thoughts were, have a carry handle with the carry handle scope mount and just be able to pop this on and off as you need it. That really doesn't work out, basically, because it costs so much fucking money to get a carry handle now. And once you do, you need a different front sight post than that, so it kind of fucks up the whole thing. You have to have an upper built, and the people that do that want a lot of money. Palmetto State Armory sold me this upper for like, I think $300, $250. So we went A3. The bad part of that is you have to buy a sight, right? The good news is Arms Unlimited has had these for $69, I believe, ever since I got this several years ago. So go to Arms Unlimited and you can get this thing cheap. It's a Magpul Pro rear sight. It's the only one I would spend money on, to be honest. If you're wanting a fixed rear sight, I would get a Daniel Defense A1.5. The only reason to run that would be if you're going irons only, or if you're going to have a hollow sun, you might do fixed irons and a hollow sun. And that is definitely a way to go. I like this because it has versatility, basically. I can do a lot of different shit with this gun, and it always has a fucking backup iron that is zeroed to the fucking shit that, like, is worth a damn. You could fight with this. Meanwhile, assuming that we're probably going to have optics, we have a fucking gun that's capable of mounting optics. Now, assuming that we're probably going to have red dots, we have an A-frame. However, because you can still do a lot of shit, I like having a scope with the A-frame. Okay? Like, if I need a red dot, I can swap down to a red dot on this and zero that quickly someplace, and then have a fucking backup iron always, and then I can quick deploy this, one back here if I need it. But in reality, you have a giant fucking ghost ring with a dead red dot, right? So, like, this is a red dot with a magnifier would make a lot of fucking sense. And this is where, like, instead of buying a fucking Leupold, I might just get a fucking magnifier. But if I do that, I might put the red dot magnifier on this gun and put this scope on my other gun. I don't know. I'm toying with that idea. I could return Loki to her PDW glory of having just a red dot. I'll think about that. I really like being able to see further. It's nice. And especially, like, if you're on your own in the end of the world, a lot of people are carrying red dots because that's what they see in video games, and that's what the army does, and that's whatever. I, as an individual person, would not want to be on the loose with just a red dot on my rifle most of the time. It has nothing to do with being able to shoot better. It has to do with being able to see better. And I don't want to have to constantly carry a pair of fucking binoculars. So I'm going to point my gun at shit and use the fucking scope to check it out, because I don't give a fuck about you. I don't give a fuck about anyone else either. Like, we're in combat. We're in whatever. Like, I don't care about pointing a gun at you. Flat out. Until proven otherwise, you're going to have fucking guns pointed at you. Welcome to the real world. This is how shit actually fucking works. Okay? This is like back to like, I heard Grand Thumb say a while back, big boy rules? This is some big boy rule shit. If you're going to be leading a group of people, which I guarantee you, any of you fucking watching this, or anyone who watches any of this shit on fucking YouTube, you will eventually wind up being in charge. Because you're going to have foolhardy people in charge of you, and they're going to get very rapidly killed. That's just kind of the way of things. We're in a world today much as it was in, 1914. People think they know a lot about war, but in reality, we haven't fought a real war, like, against superpowers in fucking 70 years. And we're dusting off shit right now to do that. Anyway, I don't know where that was going, but that's why I don't really think I should have a fucking red dot on this thing. A red dot with a magnifier becomes a little bit more interesting, but like, this thing sees like 2.5 times as good as my magnifier would. And it's pretty lightweight compared to a red dot and a magnifier. I think this just has a versatility advantage between the scope being able to come on and off. And like, you might be, return to 0. And this is where it might behoove us to spend a little bit more money on a mount. And I kind of think if I'm going to do that, I might spend a little bit more money on a scope too. And then we'll just have this thing as backup. I don't know. For now, I really like this. It works for me. I played around with putting it on, taking it off, and it returning to 0, and it did just fine for me. You have to be careful about how you put it on and off. That's anything, right? The cleaning rod is probably unnecessary, but it's one of those things that doesn't weigh hardly shit, and it's on a spot on the gun that I don't even notice it. My other gun has one on it too now. My other gun has the red dot on it, and it has a set of backup irons too, and it's kind of set up as like, I'm going to have a dual mag in that gun, and I'm going to have a dual mag sitting next to that gun. And that's going to be to arm another person, because basically anyone could carry a second dual mag in a pocket or some shit. I might even figure out some sort of a fucking sling to put on a fucking dual mag. That's not a bad idea. We're gonna have to do that. I'm gonna make slings on the dual mags. Like, you have to carry them somehow. I could fish fucking some shit between the mags and tie a knot in it. It's not a bad idea. Then you're always gonna have shit dangling off of it. I'm gonna at least do that with one of them, right? Like, the second dual mag is gonna have a fucking sling on it. The one in the gun, I don't think should have one. But that's kind of in a nutshell why that gun gets the red dot, is because, like, that with folding iron sights has nothing in the way of the red dot. Put the red dot on the bad guy, pull the trigger, and you're running jungle mags. So running jungle mags is not the best thing in the world, but it's better than only having one magazine. And running jungle mags, you're probably not going to run more than 2 or 3 of those, right? Like, I'm probably going to make a third, and if I do that, I might have slings on both of the spares. But that's kind of my thoughts on that rifle. This is kind of the fighting rifle or whatever, and the other one is like, we're gonna station it somewhere, like an Alamo kind of last defense kind of thing, and or pass it off to somebody. And in either case, having a bunch of dual mags with it makes sense to me. This thing, I'm going to have that pouch loaded and then have a bandolier to repack it with. Maybe have like a reserve 20 rounder on my belt too. We'll see. I don't know what else, but like I kind of think 2 to 3 dual mags with the other fucking rifle is what I'm gonna do with it. Like honestly, a dual mag setup with a sling, this is the cheapest way to fucking do tactical equipment ever. I'm gonna have to do a video on this idea. Anyway, yeah, I think this is the best way to go optics-wise, though. Have a very good set of irons, be optics capable, have a scope that can QD off of there, have it zeroed, know that, get a mount that will return to 0. I'd recommend LaRue. I don't know. I really like the ability to go back and forth between the fucking irons and a scope. Because to me, I would rather have iron sights than a scope in various scenarios. And it's impossible to have it to where you can just take the scope off and have a red dot there. That you could do that. You could add a scope to the top of this thing. But now we're talking about ridiculous amounts of weight. I'm not going to do that shit. So, like, for CQB shit, this thing has a fucking big aperture. Big aperture iron sights for CQB work. They work well. Especially with a white light, which this gun has. You know, I would 100% take irons and a white light over a red dot with no white light, I guess. But, like, if you have red dot and white light, that is really like the pimp daddy setup, right? I also like that, like, none of my optical setup on this gun takes batteries. This thing is just a scope, and this thing is irons. This is, in a nutshell, kind of why I do what I do. I don't know that it's right, but it's cheap, and it works. And, like, if I wasn't going to do this, the Holosun I would get is the Holosun 403R. It's like 150, 170 bucks. This was like 150 bucks. So it's kind of 6 one, half dozen another. Right now, since I couldn't get this, I would get a Holosun and then plan to get like a magnifier or upgrade to a scope later. But a Holosun is something that I would definitely want to have in the bag. I may even put it on this gun. I don't know. I keep thinking about that because, like, in reality, it's lighter, right? I can't see as far, but that's tempting. Also, I don't like on the Holosun, I need to get mounts for my Holosuns that are QD because the Holosun mounts kind of suck. And they take some fucking torque screw bullshit that I don't have, that I always have to go find in my, like, box of screwdrivers. I don't know. I really do dig this gun with a red dot. That's half of the fucking issue, is this gun was set up and made to be run with a red dot. We are running this scope mainly because I think it's more practical. I don't know. Maybe we should set up the other one as like the pseudo DMR, whatever. Just run this thing with a red dot. Tell me what you think. If you've watched this far into this, do you agree with my supposition about the scope iron sight setup being good, or should I go back to the red dot irons? Red dot and irons is fucking proven as shit, and it works. But you can't see as far. And then I'd have that gun with the dual mags with a fucking scope. The thing's gonna be a fucking boat anchor. But it's kind of not meant to go many places. But I think back to the thing that kills this is The other gun is going to have to get this put on it. And the other gun probably needs a red dot. Although, there is something to be said with just having a hunting scope on a fucking rifle. It's like, everyone knows how to use a duplex reticle, especially if it's somewhat zeroed. Now, tell me what you think.